Hey, what's up guys? UrAvgWarGamer is back with another video for the warships, and in this video we will be taking a look at all the tier 10 hybrids. We will talk about it, the strengths, the weaknesses, and at the end whether they are worth it to grind itself, because some of them are steel ships. They can be available to you guys by farming steel, and you basically purchase them directly from these sort of resources like steel or even coal. And also there are some tech tree ones, like in front of your screen there is a Louisiana, which you can also grind it just by playing the game, or I would say grinding out this particularly interesting tech tree line. So we will talk about it, and if you guys are new to the channel and if you are even an experienced player, I make a lot of valuable, or I would say update related World of Warship videos, something that you will definitely going to like over time. If you are new, you can also watch my older videos. Those will have a good value for specifically this update. So if you do find this video as well useful, be sure to hit a like and subscribe. And let's talk about the Louisiana first. So first of all, it's a tier 10 American tech tree ship. Unlike Montana, which basically everyone knows if anyone is playing the game for a long time, it has 12 guns. Louisiana has 10 guns, okay? So it sacrifices a bit of the gun performance for having the planes, because again, we are talking about hybrids. It does have a deck armor, which is a bit weird, but it has to be there because the plane will launch from that deck. And also it does give quite interesting tankiness compared to the Montana. Montana does have a very vulnerable, just like all the other battleships, a superstructure, but the Louisiana comes up with a 38mm deck armor. Now at long ranges, this deck armor will be very tanky because no battleship AP, even the Satsuma or the Shikishima or the Yamato, all those typical overmatched battleships, they cannot able to penetrate it directly. But however, on the other hand, if you play the ship in medium to close ranges, it does have a, I would say, kind of gigantic tumor of a superstructure. As you can see, this hangar plating is going to be very vulnerable. If there are destroyers, they will easily pen that. Then there are cruisers, they can easily pen that. But again, this deck armor at long ranges and slightly around mid ranges can be pretty tanky. But again, it's sort of a weakness. It's definitely a gigantic ship and definitely very vulnerable if you play it at medium to close range. Anyone can punch this, overmatch this superstructure, and can farm you pretty hard. And then, even though you do have the deck armor like you find on Montana, the side armor, the deck armor, and you do have some area of plating, which is, I would say, pretty nice, 38mm, that can definitely bounce a lot of shells. It's still a vulnerable ship compared to Montana. And also, it does not have access to improved heal compared to Montana. Montana does have slightly better heal. It heals 18% HP in that full heal, okay? But the Louisiana will have slightly worse heal, or I would say the normal heal, 14% HP that usually one heal can provide. But on the other hand, you do have the guns, 1.9 Sigma, good dispersion. You have the dispersion ellipse, so the pattern improvement by using artillery plotting room or 2, improving the main gun shell dispersion by -11%. You find it on all the American battleships, so that is pretty nice. Your reload time is basically the same, as you can see, 30 seconds of reload time. Dispersion is same. The guns are basically as good as Montana, so no issues there, except you have 2 barrels less. But what does it come up as a gimmick is going to be the planes, because that's the reason why we have the Louisiana. So Louisiana does have bombers. Now bombers are very nice in this ship. In fact, they are relatively tankier, to be honest, because the way the mechanics work in World of Warships, if you have a single attack flight, usually it has some hidden modifiers that basically makes it quite a lot tankier than what you can usually see with respect to the HP points. As you can see, it has 2500 HP points, which might look like low, but honestly, practically it can tank a lot more due to its having a single attack flight. I'm not gonna go into details and explain like why this having a lot tankiness compared to the many squads that you find on carriers, but it is something that you should know, that it has some hidden modifiers that gives it a lot of tankiness than what usually, the planes can provide. You also have really good reload time, 108 seconds, so it's basically less than 2 minutes before your 6 bombers. And you have 6 bombers, 12 bombs in payload, 2 bombs in payload in a single plane, and you have 6 planes, so you can basically expect a good damage, more than 10k alpha or sometimes even 15k if the battleship does not have any, I would say, the saturation kicked in. 53mm penetration, which means the Kurfürst, or I would say the German ships, except for the Russians that have 60mm deck armor, you basically can pen almost everything. Yamato 57mm deck armor will be impenetrable, but I think this is sort of the exception. Fire chance is good, so you basically can set fires. You do drop pretty decent amount of bombs, and they can really hit hard the battleships, cruisers, and the best part about these bombs, that these bombs hit hard even sometimes against destroyers, even though dispersion is not the best, but you can land 2 or 3 bombs sometimes. One is most likely possible, but if you get a good bomb drop, which by the way you can spot for yourself, that's the thing that the hybrids does get in their hands. And especially the battleship's biggest weakness are the destroyers. You cannot spot the destroyers. So what you do, you basically launch the plane almost less than 2 minutes. So you can launch it relatively quickly, and if there is a DD trying to torpedo or something like that, you basically smell what are the torpedoes, where the torpedoes are coming from, and you basically go there, spot that destroyer with the help of these bombers, and you just drop, either you drop these bombs, or either you can just keep spotting that destroyer that has like really bad AA. For example, Shimakaze, Jaeger, Yu-Yang, typically all these destroyers that have like very mediocre AA without defensive fire or something across these lines, they will have a very hard time shooting your planes, and then you can just spot them for a long time. Means that the enemy ships, or I would say your teammates, can absolutely wreck him while you just keep spotting him if he is in a very tough position. Unless he smokes up, your bombers can spot them indefinitely. For now, unless they come up with a carrier rework, which will definitely gonna change the aspects of spotting. So it's a really powerful hybrid. The bombs hit absolutely hard. The bombs are very useful, not only in terms of spotting, like you just get the spotting. If you have no idea what ship is coming behind the island, he might not know you, but you can have his location with the help of these planes. It's kind of like the radar, but if there is a ship behind the island, you can just spot them directly like this. You just go and spot the bombers, spot with the help of bombers, and then you ultimately drop him, or you just keep spotting him for your teammates. It's an absolute sort of magic, honestly. So the Louisiana losing that gun department performance is not that bad, considering you are just getting super powerful thing like a spotting and the payload that you can do to anyone like behind the islands, whether it is destroyer, cruiser, or battleship. It's absolutely pretty good. And then you can also shoot the guns. If you drop the bombs, you do have like slightly bit of that time when the planes are going up in the altitude, and you can just have a salvo that you can shoot onto that ship that is, or I would say that was spotted by those planes. So that is like really good. Also, one thing to note that it does have somewhat decent anti-defense, but the best thing that Louisiana does have, at least that's something that I like, that it does have fighters. It does not have access to spotter plane like you find on Montana and Vermont, but I would say it's very good. If you pop the fighter, if you launch the planes, you pop the fighter, if the CV trying to drop you, the fighters can most likely will limit the CV strike to only one, because the fighters cannot like fully prevent the strike. It just limits the strike to one, something that people just don't know, that how fighters work. I can explain the fighters. I have explained in my previous videos how fighter consumables work, but well, that's how it kind of works. It just limits the attack to a single drop. And that's basically what Louisiana is. The concealment is not the best. You have to play it at long ranges, and I would say it's a very powerful battleship for spotting purposes, dropping purposes, and also farming purposes. If you are shooting the guns, you just get so much value from these planes that I would say it's very much worth it, especially if you want to think of getting a hybrid for steel or coal. If you want to spend that much resources, valuable resources, but do not understand the aspects of hybrid, consider playing the Louisiana first. You play the Louisiana, you will eventually play them later, or buy that particular steel cruiser or hybrid, whatever you call it, and then you will have a lot much more better time, because you do have experience by playing Louisiana first, and then you can play those other resource based hybrids afterwards. So it's pretty much worth it. And yeah, alright, so now we have come up with another hybrid. Now this is a steel resource hybrid, and it's been in the game for some time now, and that is the Russian light cruiser, or I would say heavy cruiser, because, well, it is actually a heavy cruiser but does have pretty much almost light cruiser worth of armor, and it's the one and only Komissar. Komissar firepower is amazing. Honestly, Komissar with the planes is really good, but then you have the firepower that I just really think that it's really impressive. The thing about the Komissar is that you do have the DPM, you have 13.2 seconds of reload time with a very good shell velocity on these guns. As you can see, the AP DPM is really impressive, 338k. The HE DPM is also pretty decent, and 188k. And by the way, you do have decent pen on HE, 40mm pen. As you do have 240mm guns, you do have 40mm pen, which means the Petropavlovsk, the Napoli, the cruisers that have 40mm deck armor, which usually are tanky, a lot tanky, fighting against battleships and sometimes cruisers, Komissar can directly fight with them and can penetrate their armor using these guns. You do have a lot of guns, as you can see. They are, without doubt, better guns than Zao. And Zao is basically a Japanese tier 10 destroyer. Oh, sorry, not the destroyer, it's a cruiser. But having destroyer dispersion, meanwhile, Komissar has still a cruiser dispersion, so it's not bad. The shell velocity is better than Zao. The alpha of the HE is basically better than Zao, or I would say equivalent of Zao, 3.4k HE alpha, because again, 40mm pen, the fire chance is actually better than Zao, and the AP is just way better compared to Zao. We do have improved pen angles on the Komissar. Now, the AP pen angles mean that if the cruiser, usually cruisers are going to be very much in trouble if they are fighting against Komissar. Once you're shooting this massive AP volley, again 338k DPM, 13.2 seconds of reload time, if you shoot the AP, which by the way has better AP pen than Moskva. I'm sure Moskva is a cold ship, it's not a hybrid, but the Komissar is hybrid and still having better characteristics than Moskva in all departments, while still having really good reload time of 13.2 seconds. Definitely makes it very powerful, in fact. So you do have the improved pen angles. You basically smash cruisers. Honestly, if you find Zao off guard, the Hindenburg off guard, Moskva, Stalingrad, Petro, all the cruisers, all the heavy cruisers, everyone that is on the broadside, you just smash them. But they can smash you as well, because it's having pretty terrible armor, to be honest. We will talk about the armor, but let's talk about the strengths. The guns are really good. 40mm pen is amazing. 22% fire chance is, well, you just basically set fire upon a single salvo most of the times. Sometimes the RNG is like, no, but most of the time you're going to get really good fire chance with these guns. HE is no joke. The AP is just like, wow, it's amazing. You do have torpedoes, by the way, which is a nice thing. Unlike Petro, Stalin, Moskva, Komissar comes up with 3 torpedoes on each side. I also have, funny enough, 10km range, and since its concealment is not bad at all, if I just put the commander, Kuznetsov, which again is a blessing for this ship, like you just basically heal up slightly bit of HP once your HP below goes like below 10%. So like Kuznetsov is an amazing thing, like you just get the extra DCP, everything gets restored in terms of the turrets if they are basically incapacitated. Amazing. That's the thing that you just get as extra. If you put the Kuznetsov, it just becomes a lot much more tankier. If you are basically low in this ship, you don't have really like amazing survivability at only 46,000. Terrible torpedo protection, like it's crazy bad. You just basically cannot tank torpedoes, and then you do have really bad armor. We will talk about that, but we have to talk about the anti-defense. The torpedoes, just like I said, 10km, you do have the concealment. I was talking 11.5km. So it does have really good punchy guns, very powerful HE and AP. But since it's having really bad armor, they somehow managed to give a decent concealment. And if you are basically utilizing the good concealment in kiting along with these torpedoes, you can actually land some torpedoes on a pushing battleship, which I actually like a lot. They hit relatively decent, 15k alpha, could be better, but you cannot complain. You do have already really good guns. So a pushing battleship to you can have some issues with these torpedoes, and they reload relatively quickly. 76 seconds of reload time is really nice. So, and by the way, you do have amazing firing angles on torpedoes. So basically, if you use the torpedoes, you will find it really good. So it has really good kiting, and I'm gonna say kiting offensive capabilities, because it's not a pushing ship at all. Unlike Moskva, Stalin, or Petrov, or any other Russian good tanky cruiser, it's not designed for tankiness. It's not designed for pushing. It's designed for only and only perma, and perma-kite. Anti-defense is not bad. It has somewhat decent anti-defense, but something that Wargaming has given to Komissar, and I think it's the only cruiser in the game that has access to special defensive air fire. Usually, the defensive air fire gives 50% continuous AA damage. It has 100% continuous AA damage. So if we have this rating and having this numbers or parameters with your defensive air fire, it's gonna be buffed to double. Rather than having only 50% bonus, you are going to have 100% bonus, which makes Komissar entire defense with defensive air fire actually good, to be honest. So it's really good. Concealment is good. And now we come up to the planes, because we are talking about the hybrids. There are a lot of strengths of the Komissar, and one of them is also going to be the planes, the carrier gimmick that it has on top of it. Now, the Komissar has literally a tier 10 carrier armament that you find on Nakhimov. Nakhimov is a carrier at tier 10, a tech tree one, and it has rockets of Nakhimov, and I can tell you, these rockets hit absolutely crazy hard. Again, the same thing, 40mm pen, which means that you basically wrecks the Napoli, wrecks the Petrov with this, quite a lot of rockets, by the way. You do have like 24 rockets in total, full payload. You can basically launch quite a lot of these rockets, and they do pretty decent alpha, 4.5, or I would say 4.1k alpha. So yeah, 40%, 23% fire chance, 24 rockets, 40mm pen. You basically have a very, very good chance of doing a lot of damage if you pen with the battleships, or I would say against the battleships, or at least against the cruisers. And again, the same thing, just like I was saying for the Louisiana, the spotting is a game changer. Like, the hybrids are so good, they basically are self-reliant in terms of the spotting, just because of you having the planes. You basically spot the destroyers if they are within the area where you think the torpedoes are coming towards you. So the destroyers are trying to drop your torpedoes. You basically leave, launch the planes, and spot the destroyer for yourself. You can do that. This is something that the hybrids are very specialized in. And then if you want to have a situation where someone DCPs the fire from your really good guns, like super good guns, I'm not gonna lie, he DCP'd, you basically launch the planes and you set double permanent fire. That's what I have done usually in Komissar, and it becomes insane in terms of damage farming. It's a really powerful damage farming material. With the rockets, I can tell you the rockets are super good, reliable. Nakhimov rockets are no joke. And the good thing about the Komissar is that you do, again, the same thing, 120 seconds of reload time. So you reload very quickly, and you do really well with these planes. But however, let's talk about the weaknesses. So Komissar has absolutely garbage armor. Like, 25mm bow, it does not have any, I would say, icebreaker that you find on Petrov, Stalin. So any battleship, literally any battleship that shoots at your bow, look at the citadel. It's thick, it's big, and it wants to be citadeled if someone shoots at the bow. So yeah, with this HP, which I'm not gonna say it's impressive for a cruiser like Komissar, which has amazing guns, this armor profile makes it really a nightmare if you broadside. Like, if you broadside, you most likely feels like a Minotaur. And I'm not joking when I'm saying Komissar armor feels like Minotaur, because this armor is very much above waterline, very lightly thick. 115mm is nothing. Every battleship will do damage. Every cruiser on broadside will just do massive damage. A Komissar versus Komissar, if a good Komissar player finds you broadside, you're basically gonna get death struck by the other Komissar. That's the reality. It's a really bad armor. And it can be also penned by the carriers like Malta. The deck armor is vulnerable. So yeah, quite a lot of weaknesses, and you're gonna be very much screwed if you just misposition yourself. Like, unlike in the Louisiana does have a lot of HP and all the tankiness of a battleship. This seems like a light cruiser. It does not feel like, with the guns and with the planes, but it's basically having sort of a light cruiser guns with somewhat 30mm plating on deck or on side, which basically bounces 406mm guns. But again, this cruiser is not for the ship, the players who basically misposition themselves or broadside consistently. If you do that, all the firepower will be gone in just a single drop off by a enemy battleship. It just drops you, just draft strikes you, and the firepower that you have, which is amazing, it kind of really reminds me that it's sort of a ship that is kind of weak in the armor, so it can be countered like this, but very strong onto the offensive side. So pick your poison properly. If you find the Komissar guns amazing and all the platform that it provides, just buy it because of that. And I would say it's a really good cruiser. It's just that you have to play in kiting. It's just kites well. It does not push well. Sometimes you can push to island and can stay here and can launch the planes, yes, but again, it's not for the faint of heart. It's not for someone that just do regular mistakes. It's for an experienced hybrid player. That's what I can say. And if you have really good experience playing cruisers or hybrids, this ship is monster. The gun performance, the DPM, everything that it provides with absolutely powerful AP. It's a powerhouse, but with absolutely cards level of garbage armor. Like it's like a house of cards in terms of its armor profile. It's just absolutely terrible. I'm telling you, it's just gonna be death striking pretty much quickly if you don't do the right things in this ship. Okay, so the next hybrid, again for steel, and it's basically the newest hybrid as of right now. It's released just like probably a couple of weeks ago, and it's Amiral Lartigue. They have released this newest tier 10 French hybrid. Now, what does Amiral Lartigue gives? Well, first of all, it's having the deck armor that you don't find it on Komissar, because the plane launching kind of platform is a lot different. But if you compare it with Louisiana, Lartigue is also having that similar figure. It does have the deck on top of the cruiser hull. Okay, so you can launch planes from here, and the thing about the Lartigue is that it does have 32mm deck armor. So again, the same philosophy applies to Amiral Lartigue like I was saying about the Louisiana. It's good and having somewhat decent tankiness at long ranges. Unless the Yamato, Shikishima, Satsuma, if they drop a salvo on you, you're going to get overmatched, so they will just do insane damage. Otherwise, if there are ships like Vermont, 457mm guns, 431mm guns that you find on Republic, any battleship AP that is not 460 and lower, they will have a very bad time at long ranges doing any damage because it will bounce. But however, it does have the weakness. As you can see, this tumor of plating once again is the biggest curse for this hybrid cruiser as well. 19mm plating, so at medium to close ranges, if you don't have the cover, you're going to be farmed stupidly hard by destroyers and cruisers, because they can have insane DPM and they will full pen you, and that's why their DPM will not going to be theoretical. It's going to be practical, and they will do a lot of damage. So got to be careful from the destroyer and cruisers. If they farm HE on you, yeah, at close to medium ranges, then this deck armor is not going to do anything, because then you do have a lot of superstructure compared to many other cruisers. And then you do also have one vulnerability, that is 30mm deck armor here and 25mm bow armor, which by the way can be overmatched by basically all the battleships in the game except for the Mecklenburg, which does have only 305mm guns, but it's a heavy cruiser sort of battleship plating ship. So I cannot say much about it. It can just shoot a lot of HE, it can set fires. It's a big cruiser, it can take a lot of damage. If someone shoots HE on you, that can also pen. So yeah, gotta be careful. The armor is not amazing. The only thing that you can do with Amiral Lartigue is gonna be this side armor. Since it's kind of have the German characteristics, it's basically a Hildebrand, which we will talk about the Hildebrand in the later part of this video. It's basically a French Hildebrand, or I would say the German hull that gets the French uniqueness or gimmicks on top of it. So that's why you have 90mm plating that can bounce every shell in the game and even absorbs quite a lot of HE shells. So you basically bait these levels of armor if the battleship shooting. Otherwise, you can take a lot of damage, especially from the bow. The bow is very, very weak. The stern is also weak. So yeah, someone can abuse it. But however, the best thing about the Lartigue is that it has, unlike Komissar, really good torpedo protection. Again, it's a German hull, and that's why it's having one of the best torpedo protection in the game. The HP pool is also very impressive, 63,650. And by the way, it does have planes. We will talk about the planes. They are unique. They are different. We will talk about that. But however, what is really good about the Lartigue is the guns. Now, again, the guns are amazing. If you have played Marseille, Marseille is a tier 10 heavy cruiser. If you have played Marseille, and you know how hard hitting those guns are, how good AP pen the Marseille guns is having, Lartigue also having access to the same guns. But the fact about the Lartigue is that it has not access to battlecruiser dispersion. Battlecruiser dispersion is not the best of the dispersion, but it is certainly better than battleships. So battleships dispersion, you're not going to get this on Lartigue. Even the battlecruiser dispersion is not there on Lartigue. Wargaming decided that it has cruiser dispersion on these guns. And by the way, these guns have really good shell velocity, cruiser dispersion with 2.05 sigma. It hits hard, the shell velocity is fast. You will do insane damage even if it's only 6 guns, and also that it has really good reload time of 16 seconds. So it's a really good platform on bowing in situation from island to island as a cover. If you can mitigate this armor profile and can shoot the guns onto the battleships or broadside cruisers, you will get rewarded by this really good AP performance. But it's not like the Komissar. Komissar obviously really have a lot of DPM going for it, but the Lartigue has a lot much more tankiness going for it with a lot better range. Also, the gimmick that we all wanted to know about the Lartigue, because it's a new ship, so it's going to have the skip bombers. Now skip bombers is unlike rockets. Skip bombers is unlike the HE bombs that you find on Louisiana. So it has a different platform. It does drop and do differently. Now, if you have played Maximilian, or if you have seen the HE skip bombers in this game, the skip bombers of the Lartigue will do the same thing. So basically, the planes will drop their payload. If you basically use these skip bombers, they do pretty decent damage. You do have 6 bombs. 1 bomb do 9.6k damage. Good HE pen and also 55% fire chance. So you do have a good opportunity to do good damage to battleships, cruisers, and sometimes even destroyers. But again, since it skips, and what you want is to just land all the bombs as much as possible, it's something that you do on the Lartigue to set fires, to basically spot for yourself. The same thing that I was saying about the Komissar and the Louisiana, that you spot for yourself, and also use these skip bombers. These are a bit different. And one thing that I would like to say, that even though Lartigue is a hybrid, Wargaming designed this ship that it's focused more onto the main battery department. It's the bombs. The bombs you will see are a bit not the best. It's having 200 seconds of aircraft preparation time, so not really good, right? You can improve it slightly with the captain skills or upgrades or whatever, but it's still not good compared to, I would say, Komissar's 120 seconds, or even the Louisiana's 120 seconds. So it's basically more like trying to scout for yourself sometimes, and also try to drop these skip bombers or bombs or that payload onto the broadside ships, or mostly like these things, but not often. So yeah, that's the thing about the planes. So planes are not super amazing, but they are good. They're good. And also there is something that I cannot show you since I don't have the ship myself, but I have really understood all the characteristics because I have tested it myself. And so I can tell you that it has access to a consumable on the planes. Yes, it has the consumable on top of the planes. So you can actually launch a fighter plane consumable with the help of these bombs. If you are playing using these bombs, you basically can launch the fighter, which can protect either you for a very long time. I cannot show you. It has really good reaction time on those planes, 2.5 seconds of reaction time to be precise. You basically use, and you can protect any of your teammate by using skip bombers and taking those skip bombers on top of that ship, and you pop that consumable, which is fighter consumable, and you have a 9 plane worth of fighter consumable, a big bubble that's going to protect either you or anything that you are trying to put on top of that. Or here's another gimmick that I think no ship has in the game. It's something that is pretty insane, that once you pop that consumable, those fighter consumable, which by the way, if you have played CVs, you know what I'm saying, okay? Hopefully you know that, right? But you can go and check that out, that fighter consumable, how you pop it or how you do all that stuff. There are a lot of videos for that. What I can say here is that the fighter itself also have the spotting for 2 kilometers itself. That fighter can literally spot anything that is in that bubble like 2 kilometers. Which means that if you literally pop that fighter against destroyer, he will be spotted for a massive amount of time. Which means that you can shoot him back, your teammate can shoot him back, and you can just rack up massive damage like that. So you do have the skip bombers with the spotting. Then you have those fighter consumable 2 kilometer aura that can also defend against a CV strike if the enemy carrier is there. It can basically destroy those planes if he comes into that bubble, or at least those planes can spot any destroyer, cruiser or battleship, and these planes are very tanky. Those fighter consumable is better than normally that you find on carrier. So yeah, consider it very difficult to even shot down. So you can spot for a massively long time from those fighter consumable that includes in the skip bomber. So hopefully that answers this thing. And then all the things are basic. Concealment is decent, 13 kilometer concealment if I'm not wrong. Maneuverability, again, you are a heavy cruiser, so it's not going to be having impressive, although the Lartigue comes up with the speed boost, and it also have decent maximum speed, so you can basically having 40 to 43 knots of speed, which is kind of crazy for a cruiser. So it's basically having a very impressive speed like you find on Henry, or I would say you find on Brennus. Those are all the cruisers, or you can also even find on Marseille. So basically having really good French speed boost, so you basically speed juke if you want to, and it can also, you know, use all the hybrid capabilities, spot for yourself, spot destroyer, do damage. So it does a lot with the cruiser dispersion on these guns. So it's extremely powerful cruiser. I'm not gonna say it's a game changer like the Hildebrand. We will talk about the Hildebrand now, but yeah, I think it's an amazing cruiser. It's accessible, it's widely available to all of us. For steel like Komissar, like Louisiana, you just have an access to that ship, at least with the guns that are really amazing for a very good reload time. I would say Lartigue is pretty decent cruiser. I'm not gonna say it's worth it compared to Komissar, but if you want more tankier platform compared to Komissar, if you are willing to sacrifice the gun performance of Komissar, because Komissar does have better DPM numbers, it does have slightly worse DPM numbers, but still it does come up with a lot more tankiness. For sure, Komissar can tank, but speed juke well. This can also speed juke well, but again, it plays more like island to island. So I would say compared to Komissar, I'm not gonna say it's worth it. Komissar does pretty well in terms of damage numbers and all that stuff. Lartigue can do that as well. Both are pretty good, but I will give more edge to Komissar just because it's Russian and I like the Russian Komissar a lot. The firepower, I love firepower. I love that experience. I just work my way up playing more Komissar with all the weaknesses that it has compared to Lartigue, because then there is a Hildebrand. And if you do have the Hildebrand, Lartigue is basically useless, to be honest. To be honest, if I talk about the Hildebrand, which is by the way a very toxic ship in the game, it's not available as well, then you will eventually see that Lartigue is just a copy with a very different aura, but a worse aura compared to Hildebrand. Alright, so now we are finally here for the Hildebrand. I have talked about this cruiser many times, as it's very toxic, it's not good for the game, the balance is pretty bad when it comes to Hildebrand, and it is still pretty much like that. Now Hildebrand is absolutely insane and very much more interesting compared to, I would say, the Lartigue that I was talking about. It was available for doubloons. In the containers, there is a chance that you have a Hildebrand for opening up some containers. The chance is very low, and afterward they have just not make it available. And everyone knows, if anyone has played against Hildebrand, they know it, and you should know also that Hildebrand is broken. Yes, Lartigue is good, probably somewhat very good, but Hildebrand is way better than, I'm not gonna say way better, but it's definitely better than Lartigue. Now, why? First of all, the Lartigue is literally a copy of Hildebrand. The Lartigue idea literally comes from Hildebrand itself. You can see the armor plating. Everything that Lartigue has, Hildebrand has it. Also, one thing that you have to really note, that this is 27mm bow. Lartigue has 25. This has slightly better thickness, bow thickness. And also something that you should really note, that this Hildebrand has 30mm deck armor compared to 32mm plating that you find on Lartigue. So this is the only weakness that Hildebrand slightly get and worsen its armor performance compared to Lartigue. So 30mm deck armor means that even the battleships like Vermont, the Loria, all the guns that have less than 460mm caliber or 420mm caliber or above can overmatch you. So it's just gonna do huge damage. So Hildebrand can tank less overall at long ranges compared to the Lartigue. The armor profile is same from all the other sides though. Look at the side armor. This all plating is basically the same that you find on Lartigue. But what is not same is the planes. And what is not same is the guns. Now the guns are definitely better. The penetration of the guns on the Hildebrand is slightly worse. The DPM is somewhat, not gonna lie, it's slightly better. As you can see, 15 seconds of reload time base compared to 16 seconds of Lartigue. The HE performance, just like because it's a German, and Germans does have really bad HE alpha. As you can see, 3.6k HE alpha, 27% fire chance. So I would say the guns are definitely slightly worse compared to Lartigue, even though the reload time might be better, and even the range is slightly worse. 18.5 versus 21 kilometer on the Lartigue. So definitely the parameters of the guns is worse. And also the Hildebrand comes up with battle cruiser dispersion. So overall, the dispersion is not going to be as amazing as you find on Lartigue. So these are the things that the Lartigue has going in favor compared to the Hildebrand. But however, even though I have talked about the deck armor, I have talked about like worse dispersion because of battlecruiser dispersion and everything else like the range or anything else, etc. Where it does get better and honestly just gets stupid, like what the F levels of stupid, is gonna be the torpedo bombers. And then you have the extra armament unlike anything in the game. You have two planes. You have two squadrons to lock out from the deck. You basically can launch two planes. You can't do that on any other ship in the game. No hybrid has this power, and only Hildebrand has it. And by the way, if you look at this torpedo bombers and look at the reload time, aircraft preparation, it has 80 seconds of aircraft preparation time. 3 torpedoes, 4.5k damage, very fast torpedoes. You basically spot like a crazy madman in this ship. Like this ship can spot for yourself like absolute crazy. And then you have the bombers, which by the way loads in 300 seconds, which is definitely the worst out of all hybrids in the game, if I'm not wrong. It's really bad. The reload time might be bad, but these bombs, oh my goodness. 13.7k alpha, 78% fire chance, 68mm armor pen, and the bomb's reticle. If you go and check out the video on YouTube, there are countless videos, man. You will be obliterating destroyers in the game. You will be doing massive damage to more than 20k damage on a single drop against battleships. You basically annihilate cruisers with that really tight bomb dispersion if you aim well. And that's what you can do with the bombers. And the torpedo bombers are an absolute nuisance. Like they're just so annoying. They're just so toxic. The destroyers will not gonna be able to cap. The Hildebrand torpedo bombers are coming, and well, behold, there are the bombers also coming. And these bombers, if you look at the bombers in a destroyer, you will definitely gonna be fearing your life, because a single drop can absolutely obliterate you. And by the way, these planes have heal. The bombers is the only squadron in the game that have access to heal for 7 seconds. So which means even though the planes does not have HP, the bombs, even though it does not having really impressive HP, but when you pop that heal, you basically have a guaranteed chance of having all 6 planes intact and can drop the payload and can just do massive damage unlike anything in the game. There is no hybrid that has the numbers even close to 13.7k. Let alone if we take a look at the midway HE bombers. If you have played carrier, if you have played midway, well, go and check that out. Even that having 11k alpha, it has 13.7, or I would say almost 14k alpha. So imagine the insanity that it can bring onto the destroyer, onto the cruiser, battleship, or even sometime carriers, because 68mm deck is so fun and engaging for a carrier player. Yeah, so Hildebrand comes up with these attack flights. Yes, it's having very bad reload time, but again, you can have like 3 drops, or I would say 3 times you can pop this plane in a single game, 3 times at least. And the torpedo bombers, well, you can just do that like 16, 17 times in a 20-minute, kind of like roughly 17, 16 times you can launch these torpedo bombers. So it's basically super spammy. Alone, if you use these planes, if you don't use the guns, I can guarantee you that you can do 150k damage with just these planes without even showing your hull. You stay in the spawn, which again I have seen good Hildebrand players position themselves behind the island, and they just use the HP, their tankiness in the late game, or at least if they want to farm a battleship like that having good overmatch, which can overmatch this, Hildebrand simply just use the planes and it does not risk his hull. This is something that you cannot do in any other hybrid in the game. Everyone has to risk their hull, everyone has to risk something with their ship itself. Hildebrand does not, because it has so much firepower on these aircraft that it's not even funny. It's toxic. It can also change the tide of the game if you're able to spot destroyers constantly with torpedo bombers and obviously dev strike. Telling you 3 bomb hits is possible. 3 to 4 bomb hits or 2 bomb hits is very much possible in the Hildebrand with these bombs. Yeah, it's definitely a overpowered hybrid, probably the best hybrid in the game, and something that I would say it's toxic. By the way, torpedo protection, German torpedo protection like you find on Lartigue, both are having similar hulls, so good torpedo protection for both of them. And that's basically it. Yes, against carrier is gonna be a lot weaker. At least the Lartigue does have the fighter consumable that it can pop with the help of skip bombers. It cannot. It does not have that gimmick, so there is some difference. It does also not have access to speed boost, and the concealment numbers are roughly similar, or I would say in the case of Hildebrand slightly better compared to the Lartigue. But again, I must say it's better than Lartigue for 100% sure. And if you do have this ship already, well, Lartigue is kind of useless. I'm not gonna lie. Lartigue is, why are you playing Lartigue? For the speed boost? For the skip bombs? Even though you do have these bombs that are even more devastating? Well, you can ask yourself if you do have the Hildebrand, or if you are interested in getting this ship, then Lartigue kind of becomes not so worth it. Anyways, hopefully this answers this big hybrid cruiser. So this probably sums up the hybrids. I'm sure there are hybrids like, for example, the Kearsarge. I mean, we can see here there must be Kearsarge lying around somewhere. As we can see, it's right there. We can talk about it, but consider that it's almost a Louisiana with North Carolina guns. I'm not going to explain in detail, but Kearsarge is basically the same thing, same gimmick, except with, I would say, better rockets, or I would say better thing, except the worse hull in terms of the bad armor that it provides with this tumor. I can talk about Kearsarge. Then we do have Tune, then we do have some other hybrid, like for example the Chukuma 2. I can talk about it, but I probably will in maybe the other video, because this video gets very long. I have explained them in detail, but hopefully you can see that we do have the Chukuma 2 with hybrid capability. When we also do have a Tune, a Japanese cruiser with hybrid capabilities. I hope I can show you that. So we do have the Tune. These are the rest of the hybrids that we can talk for sure. And then we also have a lower tier hybrid. I mean, just to give you an idea how many hybrids that we have out there, okay? So we do have, where's the hybrid? It has to be Ise, which we need to find out. Just give me a second, guys. Should be somewhere here. Oh, there it is. So Ise, that's another hybrid. So these having the planes, these having torpedo bombers. Yeah. So these are the hybrids. So I can talk about that if you want to have this video. make sure to tell me in the comment section what do you think about the tier 10 ships. Which ship are you really interested in, whether you should buy these hybrids or not, or if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And last but not the least, I would like to give a big shout out to my Patreon members, Power Pulse, Edward Mackey. These guys are awesome. Dutch Prince is also trying to support me directly. So these guys are helping me a lot maintaining my YouTube channel in a better way possible, and I can't thank them enough. And I cannot thank you guys enough as well, who are a very much old viewer in my YouTube channel. If you have any questions, always let me know in the comments. I can always answer any of your comment for sure. Take care guys. Peace out.